bring up a presentation. This meeting, if you were on an earlier meeting this month on the 17th, is pretty much exactly the same format. We just wanted to have two different forums for people to express their feedback. We know some people couldn't join us on the 17th, so we are seeking people who haven't had that opportunity to have some feedback to have it this evening. So with that, I will get started.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Fonse. I'm a public affairs officer for the city of El Paso, and I wanted to give our Mayor Pro Tem an opportunity to say a few words before we get started with the presentation.
Thanks again, Tammy. Thank you, Lisa, and all staff for making this day happen. I'm really happy that we're able to come here together. You know, this is a project that has been extremely important for me and for our district and District 1 and for the entire city of El Paso. You know, it's very clear with the vote that took place, what needed to happen, and reservation of all time. I'm happy that we're able to get this much closer to the process, as we are very, 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 very close to having this conservation easement done for a very important project. I think all of us should view tonight as a sign of movement towards the ultimate goal, but we need to focus on crafting the details of what this easement looks like and acts like. We can't take the words "for all time" lightly when we're having this discussion today. So please, I encourage everybody who has signed up. We will give every single person who has signed up in this meeting the opportunity to speak their voice, to let us know what their concerns are, what their ideas and suggestions are on this process moving forward. And again, I want to thank staff. I want to thank Lisa, Tammy, and others for helping out with this presentation and with these meetings. And I want to thank also the public as well, all of you coming out, and the Bone Arts as well, amongst many other people for helping to make today happen as well. So again, thank you again, and look forward to hearing your comments.
Super. Thank you so much for your words. And without further ado, we can move forward. I just want to run really quickly through a little bit of a brief history to kind of refresh your memory. Some of you don't need the refresher, but just kind of let you know how we got to this point and kind of cover where we're going. 1 second. Oops. So on May 4th, 2019, the petition was brought and the El Paso voters passed a ballot measure to preserve in perpetuity and in its natural state approximately 1,100 acres. It's just shy of 1,200 acres. I think it's 1,194 in Northwest El Paso, including the Lost Dog Trail. On July 23rd, 2019, the council directed staff to explore a conservation easement to further protect the natural open space and to look at partners for working with the conservation easement. Tonight we have on the line Frontera Land Alliance, and they have been the land trust that we are working with on this project. In October 2019 and December of 2019 last year, the council directed the staff to conduct additional outreach related to the conservation easement to include mineral rights. So that has been settled. Then in this year, February 2018, we did an update to the city council, and they told us to definitely move forward with a conservation easement, potential partnerships, town hall sessions, and to capture additional public input on the conservation easement. And then moving forward, by the end of the year, we will be finished with the drafting of the conservation easement. For those of you who aren't really familiar with conservation easements or the process, that is a legal document. We are working with Frontera Land Alliance, as I said, to be the land trust. We are developing a baseline report that will be a report to show all the different conservation values that we have, like plants and mammals and water out there right now. And then we're also developing a land management plan, which is kind of a snapshot of where we are with the land now and where we want to go for it in perpetuity. The Lost Dog land in order to become a conservation easement. We acquired the land, the city acquired the land with open space dollars from the stormwater fees from El Paso Water. We determined the restrictions on the use based on funds, which are generally speaking natural open space and passive recreation. And then the council directs staff to pursue the conservation easement process in February of this year. One thing that's very important to note, I've heard a lot of people give us feedback that the land is not currently protected. The land is currently protected when the ordinance was passed against development in perpetuity. The conservation easement is simply placing the land with a land trust to do the stewardship and monitoring,
Lisa?
also to take a fuller
Lisa?
inventory. Yes.
Lisa, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Dr. Sharon Bonard has indicated that they can hear you, but they can't see anything.
Oh, what?
This might be the same problem we were having earlier.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Bonard.
Oh, thank you. Sometimes when I move my computer, it slips. It's a little wonky.
No slideshow.
Oh, you cannot see the slideshow?
It's visible for me. You might need to leave and join. We had this problem in a meeting a couple days ago.
Stephen, what did you say?
You might need to leave and come back. I could see it.
Thanks. Okay, there we go. We're leaving.
Sorry.
I can also see the slideshow just fine.
Microsoft.
Thanks, Stephen.
Sorry, the digital age has us regressing, and we'll move through this very fast. I want to be cognizant of people who weren't able to join, but I know several of you have heard this 3 or 4 times before.
Give Dr. Bonard a minute to sign back on. I think
Sure.
that would be cool.
Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. So just as I was mentioning here, the Lost Dog Trail Ordinance that was passed on May 14, 2019, preserved in its natural state the 1,100 plus acres known as the Lost Dog Trail. So like I said, development was kind of frozen at that time. I just want to clear up any information that people are getting that the land has not yet been protected. It is protected. We're just working through the conservation easement process. Here we have the definition of natural open space and passive recreation. These are 2 municipal codes that the city uses that's compliant with the way that the land was purchased and the way that the land came to be. And this is kind of an umbrella, if you will, kind of a basket of things that could happen on the land. But the conservation easement process is a completely separate document. You're able to look at the documentation and add, or, well, in some cases add, but mostly omit from this list. So I just want to draw out a couple things. On the natural open space, again, it's intended but not required for passive recreation. So that can include mountain biking, recreational biking, hiking, jogging, walking. Those are things that are already happening on Lost Dog and have been happening for a long time, and we're aware of it. Horseback riding, at this point, we've decided that's really not something that would
Excuse me,
comport.
Lisa,
Yes.
we cannot see your PowerPoint presentation, and we feel very left out of what you're doing. You've spent a lot of time to put this together, and we can see nothing. So we've tried going out and coming back in. I'm seeing this on the public town hall meeting. I see no slides. I don't see anything.
Can whoever's sharing just try to like stop sharing?
Let me go in and out. So
I'll
give me
stop talking.
what? Oops, I'm sorry. Give me 1 second.
I think we had one person in the Mountain Bike Association meeting who had problems. Rodney, who I think is on now, and I don't know if he got it fixed or not. But the problem happened a little bit before. Rodney, I don't know.
Yeah, I can actually see this. I can actually see it fine now.
Okay.
Yeah, but he couldn't last time, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Oops. Here we go. Whoops. Sorry, I'm doing 2 things at once. Okay, so everyone can see it. mostly speaking. Is there anyone who can't see it? Okay.
Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes you just got to restart, right? Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So again, you know, we've
Lisa,
already.
Lisa, this is Tammy. I'm sorry to interrupt one more time. Could you just back up maybe a couple of slides so that nobody feels left out? I know that it wasn't a whole lot of information, but if we can just restart, that way everybody feels welcomed.
Okay. Well, we had the opening remarks. Do we need to revisit that or just start from the from kind of the run through of the history?
It would be great if Mayor Pro Tem, you can just summarize your remarks so that everybody gets the same information.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming here. Really excited that this is happening. This is an important project for our city, for our district, and for myself personally. Clear mandate to make sure that we go above and beyond in preserving this land in perpetuity. Just really excited about it. We are very, very, very close to making this happen. These are just some of the final parts to get input so that we can have a conservation easement and the appropriate uses, again, informed by the public, which is y'all, and want to thank staff and all the public and everybody here for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops. And just to recap on the Lost Dog Trail background, this all kind of, I know there were years of work with the petitioners, but this all kind of culminated in May of last year in 2019 with a ballot measure to preserve in perpetuity the Lost Dog area of almost 1,100 acres, and including the Lost Dog Trail. Last July, the council directed staff to explore a conservation easement and to look at partnerships to hold the easement. At this time, Frontera Land Alliance is such partner, and we're very happy to be working with them. We are working with them on another project, and I know they've worked with the city before, so it's perfect. They're locally based, and it's been very good. In October and December of last year, council directed staff to conduct additional outreach related to the conservation easement to include mineral rights. We have wrapped up that process. And then in February of this year and September of this year, we updated council. In February of this year, council said, please do put a conservation easement on the land and do so with your partnership that you've identified. And then this September 17th and the 30th, we had a number of different meetings today, but just capturing that kind of last mile input. We want to make sure that we get this right. It's going to be a very long-serving document. So we're just, and we also were asked, quite frankly, to have this additional I don't want to say last minute, but last mile kind of public input. We will be finishing up the final easement drafts, or the final easement document, I should say, and updating council before the end of the year. The Lost Dog land was acquired with open space dollars from the stormwater fees from El Paso Water. That determined the restrictions of the use on the land, which was natural open space and passive recreation, which are codified in the municipal code. And then the council also directed staff to pursue the conservation easement process that we've talked about in February. And we have been working on it since then. This is the Lost Dog Trail Ordinance. I've said this now, I think 3 or 4 times, but I think it's been worth saying because we're constantly asked about it. The land right now is preserved against development. The step that we're taking now is to put it in a conservation easement to have that stewardship and monitoring, and also identifying different types of species and different types of conservation efforts that we want to have happen on the land. So with a natural open space and passive recreation, again, this is an umbrella of definitions. It's kind of a picnic basket. You can choose things out of the basket that you like. You can omit things that you don't like. So this has been kind of our guide point. And again, what I was saying before we kind of restarted the presentation, we already know that the activities of mountain bike and recreational biking, hiking, jogging, walking are happening. We've had feedback, plus it really doesn't make sense to have horseback riding. We know people have photography or nature study observation. I mean, nature study and observation is you just stop and look around at the scenery. That's why everyone loves Lost Dog. So the most important thing that's actually codified here, as well as it comports with the conservation easement, is that we don't want anything to affect the environmental characteristics of the land. Passive recreation. So this is a little bit more permissive, but like I said, we're here to just get this kind of last mile input. We've already received a lot of input and we kind of know where we're going with this, but just to bring your attention to this, activities can include, but aren't limited to backpacking, hiking, wildlife viewing, photography. Now, picnicking, no one wants a picnic in the middle of Lost Dog. There's going to be mountain bikes whizzing by and it just doesn't make eminent sense. There's 100 other places you can do that in the city. Walking, bird watching, that type of thing. So horseback riding and climbing, again, aren't a good fit here. So they're not being considered, but it is something that was kind of in this kind of basket of things that we could kind of touch upon.
I'm sorry, this is Tammy again. Ms. Sharon, Dr. Bonat just sent a message saying that she can't see the slide that you're referencing. Dr. Bonat, can you see it now? It's basically the one that was shared in the meeting chat. The one that references natural open space and passive recreation.
She might be on mute, maybe *6. I can't see her.
We have another attendee indicating she will post the slides as screenshots so that everyone can see them from there if they can't see them from the display.
Perfect. So we do really want to be mindful of your time. I'm sorry that some people are having difficulty seeing. I know that's super frustrating. I think many of us had a day of computer glitches, so I empathize with that. The other thing here, again, sports fields, we're not building sports fields at Lost Dog. Pavilions, again, no. There is going to be some signage and wayfinding. We've had a fair amount of people weighing in. Some of that's for safety, some of it's for convenience, especially as it links up with the Franklin State Park. There would be other things that would be allowable, like educational stuff and but we have had a lot of feedback, and that's really not what we're here to discuss. That's not something we're looking at doing. So I will just keep moving here. So our first discussion item, and we've again presented this before on the 17th if you were here, and we've had a couple other forums that we've had some breakouts. I've received some emails and stuff, but there is X amount of trails on the property now. We fully recognize that some trails have not been placed there. I don't want to say illegally, but they've been placed there in a rogue fashion. They don't really comply with the type of trails. They're not the best thing. That's where Frontera comes in and some of our baseline reporting and land management, so we can look at like reversing or remediating that. And also we just want to get a baseline of like, do you see some new trails in the future? And that doesn't mean putting trails everywhere all over the place. What we're looking to draft is new trails. People would have to ask Frontera. There would have to be a weigh-in process. There would have to be some planning. It would have to be professional. Also, where does it make sense to do it? Also, what percentage? So those are the types of things that we're kind of hammering out the minute details. And we've had some really valuable feedback. So this is just a snapshot of some of the trails that are there now. I realize there are some different trails, but this is just showing that on the almost 1,100 acres that there is a trail system. And like I said, I realize when you're actually there on foot, the situation is different. There's been some trails that have been placed there not with good intentions. But I want to kind of open the floor to this topic, and then we can move on to the next topic. There's just 2 topics. And then as we close out, we can take some, overall comments or what the situation. But I really encourage, if you haven't been in a meeting before and have something to weigh in, to go ahead and speak now. We think that your commentary is super valuable. Thank you.
Okay, this is Marilyn Guida. May I comment on this issue of the maintenance?
Sure. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. So I think that management and oversight are necessary to avoid degradation through overuse. So any uses should be such that they would do the least possible damage to the natural environment, the ecosystem. And I'm including cultural resources, which we don't know if they exist there or not at this point, that needs a survey. And we also need surveys to look at whether there are any rare and endangered plants and animals there. So there's a whole scope of things that have, several other things that have occurred to me that do take some level of management and maintenance. And I've heard also about maybe some people creating trails that shouldn't be there. So we know, in national forests and state parks, people often make foot trails or any kind of trail off the main trail. And so usually staff has to put up signs and barriers and take measures to restore the areas that have been damaged. So in terms of maintenance, it seems to me that that's going to be something that needs checking on in a timely manner from time to time. It needs oversight. It needs a way to remediate. So that's my point of view. I don't know if anybody has a question about where I'm going there. One of the concerns I have for whatever I say or whatever anyone else says is that we may be trying to express ourselves, and maybe someone else thinks, that person is trying to say this or that, which if you check back with the person, maybe the person says, no, that's not really where I was going with that. So that's a concern of mine throughout this public comment period. And if anyone wonders what I'm talking about, please ask me at this point or later in this program. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your comments. Oh. It looks like someone on the phone was trying to speak. Maybe not. It looks like a caller was trying to speak. If you're calling and you can't hear yourself speaking, *6 seems to get you off mute sometimes too. Just a little helpful hint.
Okay, can I make some suggestions?
Of course, please.
You're muted.
We can hear you.
Yeah, Rick, we could hear you say that you wanted to make a suggestion. But
The bone arts are muted.
*6 might get you off mute.
No, she's online, not on the
She's
phone.
online. Okay.
Dr. Bonart, you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you.
There you go.
We still can't see anything. We can see people at the bottom, but we cannot see your
That's fine. Just
PowerPoint other than what other people have been kind enough to send us. And by the way, Representative Schwartzbein, thank you so much for putting this together, even though we're having some technical difficulties today. But thank you. So, I wish we could see what you did. Thank you.
Dr. Bonart, this is the exact same presentation that we did in the first public meeting.
Uh-huh.
So nothing has changed in this presentation. So you have seen that.
All right. Can you hear me? Because this screen has now gone gray. In other words, it's like
we can hear you.
It's dead. This is disgusting. Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, well, I'm trying to take the mic off. How can I take my mic off if I can't get it to activate?
We'll just be real quiet.
Okay, we'll be real quiet. Okay, thank you.
Rick, did you have something you wanted to say right now?
Me?
I thought you had some comments
We're
or
just
suggestions.
trying to
you
get
wanted
the
to bring.
screen to come on. That's all. No, we'll just be quiet and listen because
Okay.
at least when I can hear things.
One thing I've been thinking about, I know we met earlier in a breakout session, but since then I think it'd be useful to list through any items that are expressly prohibited already, or like making sure that the comments along the lines of like new roads and new utility lines, gas and power, new cell phone towers. Like there's one that is sort of southeast of that property that's incredibly ugly, and it makes me sad every time I drive by it. And so another one of those, any of those examples that I just gave going up, I think would go against what everyone wants to see with this land. Like I realize that for a lot of people on this call, that's probably obvious, but I think it's worth pointing out that I haven't heard anyone's express to me the idea that they want to see any of that happen on the plot of land that we're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Well, maybe it's not said often enough because I know for Janae and I and several others, we're kind of entrenched in the process. So those have already been long nixed that don't really make sense. I mean, again, the overarching goal of this is to save the conservation values of the property. So plant, water, conservation, animal life, scenic values, those just don't comport with any conservation easement in any town or city or country or whatever the case may be. So they're really not allowable. We haven't even talked about, because we already know that it's been expressed that we don't want anything that needs utilities or any of that type of stuff. So that's already just kind of already been taken off the table and isn't planned. And I know Janae's on the line as well, and so she could jump in at any time and you know, kind of address some of these issues too. I'm sure she feels the same way. And going back to Ms. Guida's commentary on, you know, the degradation and the cultural resources and that type of stuff, that is something that we've been working on capturing again with the baseline report, the land management report, and it is the ultimate purpose of this exercise to have a conservation easement.
Just to be like sort of sticky about it, so like language specifically prohibiting all this is going into the easement agreement.
Yes, I mean, I could say that that's almost like a baseline.
It's like boilerplate language.
Like if I was to just, I mean, we started obviously with baseline language in a template. I mean, that's already just kind of understood. If anything, that then it would be added in. And like I said, for this property, we haven't received that. I'll give you an example. If we were going to do some sort of educational interpretive center, which we are not for this property, but if we were, then we would say like, hey, add back utilities to a conservation easement. But the goal of the conservation easement, again, is to have natural space and not have, you know, a power plant or, you know, things impeding the scenic view.
Okay, thanks. We don't have to keep talking about this. I think it's pretty clear. Anyone else? Other people should talk.
Well, that might be a good segue, and we can always go back to kind of the next slide. Again, this is the same presentation that, oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, this is Marilyn again. May I follow up on what was said a minute ago there?
Of course.
So in regard to the utilities and that it's baseline understood not to have utilities, I mean, from my point of view, things really need to be in writing. This is off the table, you know. I mean, those are important expressions, but we will not have such and so in this easement, needs to be in writing, I think. Be 100% clear that nobody can say in the future, oh, they must have been thinking about this or that. I mean, we already know with the United States Supreme Court that people are interpreting it two different ways. One, the way they think the founders meant what the founders meant, and the other, you know, what we mean today. So we really, really have to have every possible word in there that will make this 100% clear to people 100, 500 years hence. Thank you.
Lisa, can I go ahead and share something with it?
I can't hear if someone's talking. I don't know if that was Janae, but I just would like to address that. So the conservation easement process, aside from this land management and baseline, which are part of the exhibits, part of the package, it is a legal document. It is recorded. It's an extremely strenuous exercise where every word has to be thought of, may, shall, be. I actually am a Juris Doctor. I went to school especially for land use and conservation easements in Vermont Law School, which is probably the best place that you can go in the United States, if not the globe. So I take this very seriously. I have a long history of working with conservation easements. I know Janae's resume, and this isn't about resumes or that type of thing, but just to let you know that I'm taking it very seriously. Janae obviously is involved in this type of work out of love. I don't know a lot of people that get involved with land trusts that don't love this type of work and feel strongly about conservations. And then lastly, this is a legal document. So, you know, when we hear about this is taking so long, it's because we're poring over things and we're thinking of things as things go back and forth. And it's not so much thinking of things like, oh, we forgot to think about, you know, power lines, or oh, we forgot to think about, you know, cultural resources. It's more the minute details, and then you have to have that brain to think in the future. So I just want to kind of frame that up because I don't know if people are familiar with the process and how again, I'll use the word strenuous and how serious of a document it is, and it is forever. Could you change the document along the lines? Yeah, you can, but people don't usually do that, and that's quite a process and endeavor too. So we want to get it right from the first get-go. And Janae, I mean, this might be a good time for you to kind of jump in and kind of follow up with kind of the land conservation part of it, maybe. I don't know if that was you trying to speak before.
Sure. To Marilyn and Steve's comments about that. Can you guys hear me okay? Is it coming through?
Yeah.
It's the technology today, I tell you.
No, it's very faint. We can barely hear you.
Oh, I don't know why.
Keep talking. It might adjust and get better.
Okay. And so what it does in the easement, it will say no power lines. It will say no water towers on the easement property. It will say no roads built on the easement property. It is very specific. It gets into very specific details regarding how you address non-native species that come onto the property, because it will happen over the years. We've seen it, a lot of things we consider native now really may not have been, 500 years ago. Everything is different. And so we address a lot of very specific details. The process takes a long time. Every single project is extremely different. Napland, Thunder Canyon, and Lost Dog are very different terrains, different uses, different public benefit are provided by each of them. So we really discuss it through, because we don't want to say something is or is not allowed and then find out 6 months later, oh, we should have thought about that. So we really think it through. The conservation easement's purpose is obviously to allow recreation, but it also is there to preserve the habitat on the land. The habitat for the wildlife, the insects, the birds, the visual views as you use the trails. And the trails are used by all sorts of people.
mountain bikers, joggers, hikers. I've seen families out there, dogs. And so it's a wonderful project. And we really appreciate all the input, as there might be something that we haven't thought about to consider as we're working on finalizing the terms of the agreement. But yes, it is very specific to saying no, as well as saying yes. So we say yes, there's hiking and biking, and we say no to power lines. And so that is in there.
May I follow up a bit on that? There's two points. One is right now we have a lot of Palo Verde sort of invading El Paso. Some of it's native or naturalized, and some of it isn't. And it seems to be really expanding at a rapid rate. So getting rid of it is extremely, extremely difficult. So that's one issue. The other issue is climate change. And in fact, Judy Ackerman was just telling me the other day what she's seeing, how creosote looks like it's drying up. And that's one of our top native plants. So we're looking several hundred years into the indefinite future, and who knows what our climate is going to be like and what the ecosystem is going to be like. So how do we address those kinds of the Palo Verde and the unknown climate in the future?
Well, with the invasive species coming in, we can address them. So we do this on Wrestler Canyon, the nature preserve that the Frontera Land Alliance owns, and we have work days where we remove invasive species. There's always a discussion if it creates more damage by removing an invasive species, if it's holding soil down or having a different kind of positive impact. And so there's always a plan behind it. So that's where our land use plan is coming in when we work with the city to create that, is to look at that, to plan out the climate change 500 years and what's going to happen. I would be at a loss at how to do that at this point, but there would be accommodations within the land use plan that allow you to, because it will naturally change over time. The plants will adapt, things will change, animals may change. And so we will watch and go with the flow with that.
Will that land use plan give any consideration to design standards for existing or future trails? I think sometimes when you say trail to people who value and respect open space, it's a natural trail. But when you say that, Lisa, you mentioned something about bringing in professionals for any future trails. Some professionals think that a trail means a 10-foot wide asphalt path with a 20-foot Cobra head light fixture every 20 feet.
Yeah, exactly. The city has standards as it is. And we really, we know that the trails are out there are pretty much single track. We do know some are a little bit wider, and we're also, and I've mentioned this before in other meetings, we do have to contemplate and consult with our fire and EMS to make sure that we have emergency trails. I know in the other conservation easements we've worked on, where like the trails can be no wider than they need, which isn't even the width of a car. And that's not going to be all over, but we do need to have some strategic access points in case we need to get someone off the land. But we have forged a good conversation with several of the mountain biker groups that brought this petition, and we're hoping to rely on some of their wisdom to kind of meet that up with, again, the standards that the city has. And it will be very contemplated. I can't speak exactly. I know we've had some conversations with Frontera, and we've had some conversations internally, exactly what that process will be procedure-wise, but there will be quite a process for new trails, and we won't be handing over or allowing people to do that willy-nilly. And also they'll have to seek permission from the Land Alliance and the city as well. So, and it has to comport what's in the document too. I mean, if we were to hear today, a number of people that said no new trails or no trails on the south side or no trails on the north side. If the document says that it's not permittable, it's not permittable. So all the wishful thinking or hopes could kind of override that. But those are the final details that we're working on. Dr. Bonart?
Is this, does the city have a definition for natural state? Because we've, I read one into the city council yesterday, and I know I've sent one to Representative Schwartzbein, and I've also posted one on Facebook. Does the city have a current definition for natural state? Because that's pretty pivotal in all of this. It is part of not only this ordinance, but another ordinance and several presentations by the city and another conservation easement. So if you could answer that, I really appreciate it. We've had so much technical difficulty. You may have already addressed that, but we didn't get it. Thank you.
Natural state is not actually codified in the municipal code. The direction that we have here is that the land, the way that we paid for the land, or I'm sorry, acquired the land, that we have the natural open space definition. The way the ordinance is written with natural state, I understand that that came from a third party. I could be mistaken about that. That's neither here nor there. One of the issues, and I've talked about this before, but not specifically tonight, is that the general trouble or dilemma that we've been kind of wrestling with is natural state is generally intended to mean and generally accepted to mean that there's no activity on the land. But we already had activity on the land when, you know, this came to be, you know, protected by the ordinance and protected by now the conservation easement. As far as the definition of natural state, the conservation easement is going to take a lot of that burden away, because the conservation easement, maybe perhaps in my mind, is stronger than some of that language on the prohibited and permitted uses. It's something that we've heard and recognized you say in meetings. We're looking at ways to capture that in kind of the land management or whatever, but we just don't have a lot of definitions in the legal document for the conservation easement. And like I said, I think that it would be maybe more prohibited, the things that you want to see captured with that definition in the conservation easement, meaning the conservation, I didn't state that very well at all. Let me restate it, meaning that the conservation easement would actually be a little more stringent than the definition, but not no activity. Dr. Bonart, I know you have a question.
Yeah, thank you very much. But that still kind of begs the question that there are instances that the city has used and that has actually been in a conservation easement that refers to natural state. And so how can we move forward when there is not a definition? And the problem that I'm seeing is that people are referring to it as a zoning code, which is just totally wrong and totally inappropriate, and certainly against what was meant in the ordinance that established this property as a natural state area. So there is a problem. So if my husband may comment on that, please.
Sure.
May I be allowed to speak? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank
you.
Well,
there's several issues with this that are really important. And I'm glad that, I think you're an attorney, correct?
I don't practice, but yes.
Okay, great. Because one of the things is, since the money that was used to buy this parcel is the stormwater money, if you'll look back at the municipal drainage ordinance for 2007, it actually mentions natural state. So all the way back to that, and I was part of that formation of that ordinance as well, the legislative intent was correct. Also in Thunder Canyon, natural state is mentioned, and natural state is allowed to be used for recreational purposes. So I'm really want to drive a stake in this thing about natural state, meaning people can't use the property